Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Forget Me Not Streamcast. I'm Brian Prowitz, and this is Pam Speta, the founder and energy and brains behind Forget Me Not Village, which is now potentially someday a multi-location care home for brain injuries, dementia care, and a lot of things that Pam has experienced, and she's helping to literally revolutionize the way we treat these situations and issues. Hi, Pam.
Hey, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Here we are again. The first and third Thursdays of the month. They come quickly, and we have a great guest set up here in just a little while. We're going to talk about brain injury treatment with Sherry Stock, the executive director of the Brain Injury Alliance of Oregon. But before we bring Sherry on the show, Pam, your post earlier on Facebook says it all. A spectacular bit of news today. Why don't you share with everybody what's going on?
Yeah, we have closed on the first location for Forget Me Not Village. It is an absolutely, it's an awesome house right across from the airport. It's got the house we're going to remodel for our families to live together. We'll have a gym where we're going to do the Parkinson's training, which we had on our last broadcast. And we've got an in-ground pool for water aerobics, and we'll have healing qigong and yoga and just things to, massage, things to take care of the caregiver at the same time that we're taking care of the person with the dementia, Parkinson's, or brain injury. So it's pretty exciting. What are the odds? This old lady living in Roseburg, Oregon, it's retired and doesn't really have a pot to piss in. How do you do something like this? But it did. It was a miracle. It's got to be a God thing because it happened. And Greg and Robin Kovacs that own this house are just like angels sent from heaven. They're amazing. They're participating in what we're doing with the Parkinson's. And they've just been such active partners. I could not have asked for a better couple ever. They're amazing. Very amazing. So,
well, it's great. It's great because it gives you a place to begin showing people what it is we've been talking about so much and putting all of the knowledge and education that you've acquired to actual in use in a place where people can see and feel and understand and learn the difference.
Exactly. And that's what I needed to do to show, it's in my head. I've got it down pat in my head and the way it works. But, to show people and actually see it and see how much it's going to benefit others is just going to be amazing, just beyond words. I'm going to be 74 here in just a couple of weeks, and I never cease to learn about all kinds of aspects of life, but especially about dementia and Parkinson's and brain injury. And that's what we're going to talk about today because it's never-ending source of knowledge. And to be a boxing coach at my age, oh my gosh, so I figured what I'll do is I'll have some gloves on and I'll get a 6-pack of Pepsi and tape it to my stomach and tell them I've got a 6-pack.
I'm touting around a 1-pack. That's my problem.
A 1-pack. I have a no pack. Mine is a
bag of ice is what it looks like under my shirt. It's fantastic. I'm going to have you introduce Sherry, but before we do that, there's comments that people have been giving back to you saying they can't find the Streamcast, can't respond to it, or having some trouble. In the chat right below the picture on your Facebook page. So if you go to Forget Me Not Village on Facebook or on YouTube, you can reply in the comments there. So it's easier probably on Facebook. Most of our viewers are on Facebook. So below the screen where you can see Pam and I, just enter a comment just like you would any other Facebook post, and we see it here. And then we can reply to it. So we really, really want to do that. And of course, we want you to go to forgetmenotVillage.org so you can learn more about all the stuff that we're talking about here with Pam, find out about the story of Pam and Rich Speta, Pam's experience that's led her here, her certification, her training, her relationship with Teepa Snow, who is kind of the guru of a different type of care for dementia and Alzheimer's and those I don't know what those issues, those, I want to say maladies, but that's not it. Those diseases, I guess.
Correct.
So, all right. Now that I've stumbled my way through that, let's have you introduce Sherry Stock and get on with our interview today.
Wow, Sherry Stock I've known for, oh my goodness, several years. She was, I did a seminar in Winston on dementia and brain injury, and she was one of my speakers. And my goodness sakes, the knowledge that woman has got in her baby finger on the brain and brain injury, I'm just totally mesmerized every time I meet her, because she's just this fountain of information, lots of experience, just physically for herself. I mean, she's, got T-boned there by that mail truck, and stubborn woman that she is, she gets up and goes to the ER and comes right straight back to a convention that she was at. Just totally amazing. My relationship with Sherry has been personal in a lot of senses, because my granddaughter was a cheerleader in Medford High, and being a big girl, they had her on the bottom of one of those things where some girl stands on top, and she lost her balance. And my little granddaughter hit her head once, and coach made her do it a second time, and it happened a second time. And that was where I learned that brain injury, concussion specifically, if it's not treated correctly, can lead to a lot of behavioral changes, including failures, low self-esteem, blame. I do that every time. Brain bleed. Yes, that's what it is. And I have been waiting for a long time for Sherry to get well enough to do this for me. But yeah, I invite you to ask her any question you can, because she is the expert. She truly is. So she's got more initials behind her name than Carter's got pills. So trust me, I don't have enough time in the 30 minutes we're on to tell them all. But anyway, yeah, Sherry, thank you for coming on the broadcast with me. I mean, every family out there needs to know about brain injury and concussion and the treatment for it and treatment not for it. I mean, I can't tell you how many situations I've come up against since I met you where just the plain lack of information was awful. Just that was out there. And
well, am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You bet.
Okay. So, for one thing, for Brian, it's neurological disorders. It's not illnesses. And so Parkinson's, brain injury, dementia, all of that is a neurological change. And so the brain has changed. And one of the things I like to explain with a brain injury is it's like if there's an earthquake. And so think of the freeways in Southern California, and they're 10 levels high. So if an earthquake hits, the freeways might collapse, but the roads still are there, but they might not, they only might be a 2-lane road. It might be a dead end road. And that's what's happening with the messages in the brain when your brain has an injury. And every single brain injury is unique. And there's no two alike. And my son, my passion for brain injury, and the reason I have so many degrees is, having a husband in the military. So what do? You go to college. But also, Mark was 3 months old when we were hit by a drunk driver. And he wasn't supposed to live. And he's now, I'm only 39, but he's 54. And but he's at an 18-month-old level, which is really good. But he's a 6'4", 18-month-old, and so he's done really, really well considering his brain injury was when he was 3 months old. And I met at a training. I was providing a training for the state of Oregon, and a social worker for the state. Her son was 26 years old and had fallen off the changing table when he was 6 months, and he was still at a 6-month-old level, even though he was a full-grown man. Another man that I'm working with right now and people don't get it because you look normal. What's your problem? And one man that I'm working with, his brother grabbed his dad's shotgun and rifle that had bullets in it and accidentally shot his brother in the head when his brother was 8 years old. And this young man is now 51, but he's still an 8-year-old. He's never gotten beyond that. And he wants to go out riding his bike like any 8-year-old would do. And people don't get it. They say, you're a grown man. Why are you behaving like a child? Because cognitively, that's where he's at. And one of the biggest issues with a brain injury is the difference between a brain injury and dementia is a brain injury, the damage is done, and after the brain swelling is gone, and your brain can swell for 18 months to 3 years after the brain injury. And so, but say 4 years later, you're going to be stable and get a little bit better. So, a half a step better every day. And with dementia is a downhill process. So what's happening, because my grandmother and dad had dementia, is the brain is literally drying out. And the brain is 80% fluid. And so as it dries out, it's like a sponge drying out. And that's actually what it looks like, is like a sponge that has dried out. And so when you have those issues, people with a brain injury frequently, they don't want to accept where they're at. They want to get back to the life they knew before. And that life might have been 20 years before, and they keep on trying to get back. So we have one young man, he was 27 when he had his brain injury. And it's been about 8 years, and he's still, every single day, he's walking down the freeway trying to get back to his old life because he doesn't like this life. He wants his old life, which is typical of a brain injury. Not everybody's going to be walking back, but they might not understand, or they might not remember a lot of things. Like one of the things I tell people is to create a memory book, and that memory book should be pictures and with a little bit of a story. And so there was a fireman in Vancouver, Washington, and he went into a fire, and they didn't realize that his oxygen tank was empty. And so it ran out of oxygen. So he had an anoxic brain injury where lack of oxygen caused the brain injury. And he had no recall of anyone that he met. And so I told the family that each family member should take a picture and put it on a page with a little bit of a little story, one paragraph story. And I only visited him one time, but I was sitting there and there was a knock at the door, and a man and a woman came in, and they stayed in the entryway, and they told him that we're on page 17. So he turned to 17, and there was a picture of the three of them rafting on the Rogue River, and with a little bit of a story about how they would go rafting during the summer. And it gave him back his memory. But typical of some people with brain injury, that memory would only last for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it would be gone. It was short-term memory.
Yeah.
And
so, I find that oops, there's some feedback there. I find that there's a lot of, there's not much knowledge for the average person as to what constitutes a brain injury. What happens when you're, like my granddaughter, when she hits her head on the ground. Her boyfriend was hit on a motorcycle he was stopped at the stoplight. The car behind him plowed into him at 45 miles an hour. He catapulted from the motorcycle into the middle of the intersection, cracked open his helmet, and his dad, for some whatever reason, decided to not call an ambulance, so they drove him to the hospital. I got down there about 3 hours later, and they hadn't done anything for concussion. They told him that, he was fine and not a problem. the kid went and collected the money from the insurance like in the first week, and then lo and behold, later on he started having problems in his controlling his bowels, urinating, pain in the back, and all this other kind of stuff. So, is that a fairly, I see that it's a fairly common thing that concussion is not recognized even immediately after the accident. And
right. And that's very common, very common. They go into the hospital and they don't recognize it. And what was happening with him was, once again, like I was explaining, the swelling. His brain was swelling as time went on, and the brain will swell for 18 months to 3 years. And with the issues he was having, that meant that his brain stem, which is at the back of his head, so at the top of the spinal cord where it goes into the brain, that's what was damaged. And that makes sense if he was hit from behind on the motorcycle, so his head jerked back and forth, the whiplash thing, but also the helmet might have even pushed in. And but that's what was damaged was the brain stem. And because that's what controls your breathing, your blood pressure, having to void and all that kind of stuff is all through that.
Yeah. And that's when I got down there, that was the first thing I said to the receptionist desk, because it's the middle of COVID, they didn't let you do anything. Yeah. And I said, how can you get from behind, he had hit at 45 miles an hour and not have a concussion? Explain that one to me. How do you make that through that, crack open your helmet, being catapulted through the air, and how does it not happen? And it was only after I raised a whole bunch of cane that they finally got him in to see a doctor to diagnose him, and then they go, oh yeah, he's fine, he can go home, which was wrong. So, between that and the correlation between the falling and people with dementia, when you hear about all the time, why do they make such a big deal about falls and dementia? What's that correlation between the two?
Well, falls can cause bleeding in the brain. And when that happens, you might need surgery. So there's a lot more that needs to go on. Look at Natasha Richardson. So Natasha Richardson was an actress, and she was skiing in Canada, and she was on the bunny slope. Natasha was skiing and hit her shoulder. She didn't even hit her head, but her head shakes so much, it caused a small bleed in her brain. The problem was she was 2 hours to the closest hospital, and by the time they got her there, she was dead from the bleed. And if she would have gone to the hospital immediately, that wouldn't have happened. And then you get others. You get like Congresswoman Gabby Giffords that was shot in the head, and when she was speaking in Texas, I think it was. And but what happened with her was the way the gunshot went in through her forehead and took out part of the frontal lobe and the left side of the brain, which is where you're talking, you're able to talk. And what she did, because if you're in the federal Congress, there's no limit on insurance needed for medical. And so her first year was not quite $2 million in medical services provided. But what they taught her to do was your music and your art is on the right side of the brain, and she was shot on the left side. They taught her to talk again by singing in a monotone. And that's what she's doing today. She sings in a monotone to talk because the left side of the brain was destroyed. And then you get somebody like Bob Woodruff, who was in a tank in Iraq when it hit an IED, and his head hit very hard on the tank. And they had him in the air 38 minutes after his head was hit. They had done a cranectomy, which was removing it's called a flap, and they remove part of your skull so that your brain can swell. And his brain swelled the size of a rugby ball, which is bigger than a football. Wow. And if he hadn't had the cranectomy, he would have died. which is why that's so important. And we've made huge steps because of Iraq and Afghanistan and the IEDs going off, and also with the awareness of football players and head injuries in the football players. And that's all been within the last 20 years. We really didn't know anything about it. Wasn't brain injury. They always said people are faking it. And to this day, if you don't have something that people can see, they say you're faking it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
I know. I just, I kind of, isn't it true though, when you have dementia, your brain shrinks, and even the minor falls can cause bleeds in the brain because the brain's not big and it's still going to hit the sides, the skull of the inside, and cause a brain bleed, and that's what you die from.
Yeah, and one of the things with dementia and the falling is it's very common with dementia to either lean forward or lean back. Mm-hmm. And so when you fall, you're also not trying to stop yourself. So you don't put your arms out or something like that, because it's the process, the cognitive processing is so slow that you don't think of that quick enough. Yeah. And so that when you hit your head, you're hitting with the full force of your body and gravity pulling you down. Yeah. And so it's a lot worse of a hit than it would be to the normal person that can, partially block or stop that. So you might hit your head and have a little bit of a swelling, but no big deal. But if you have dementia, you're hitting a lot harder and it's a lot more significant.
So now the brain bleed, as I understand, it takes a special kind of equipment to detect that. And most emergency rooms don't have that machine. What is that?
Well, you can see the bleed with an MRI or usually it's an MRI, and they have it's called a functional MRI, and so it's a magnetic thing that goes over and checks you, and it can see in there. And actually, Camp Pendleton down in California, working with Scripps, which is a hospital down there, they developed the latest MRI that can actually the brain and the functions of the brain. So as you're thinking and say, so they were working, doing experiments with this new MRI, functional MRI that they created. And they had this woman that was in a coma, had been in a coma for 17 years and was just in a bed. Okay. And they put this MRI on her head, and they told her to imagine she was vacuuming the floor. And they were telling her, oh, you've hit the sofa, so move it to the right. And her brain reacted exactly like anyone's brain would react. So they realized after 17 years, she really wasn't in a coma. She had what's called locked-in syndrome. And so then, she was able to come out, and with locked-in syndrome, they can teach you can communicate usually with one college professor that actually fell in Switzerland, but I brought him back to this country and worked with him. And what he would do is that when he wanted to turn over, if he wanted to turn to the right, he would stick his tongue out to the right side. If he wanted to turn to the left, he would stick his tongue out to the left side. And if he wanted to sit up, he'd just stick his tongue out straight. That's how he communicated. Because he had locked-in syndrome, and he was a college professor, very, very smart. And it's just getting that message through. We have another lady that, I guess with Christina, it's been about a year and a half, but she was a special ed teacher here in the Portland area. And she got hit on the head by a 19-year-old autistic young lady and knocked her out. And when she came to, she stutters, her arms cross over each other. When she walks, her legs cross over. She had 2 kids. She was single. She lost her house. She moved in with a friend, and she got an attorney, and you'd think workers' comp and all the kind of things a teacher would have. It ended up that her settlement was $5,000. And of that 5,000, the attorney got 4,400. So she got $600, and she will never be better than she is right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's so right now it's educating the public, and they don't really want to know because it's going to cost a lot of money. You know, it's all about money and power, but it's the bottom line is money.
Well, looks like we've got a question, Brian. We got a question.
Yeah, and one of my questions would be, I don't know why your microphone is echoing, so I'm sorry that that's happening. I don't know what's happening there. Sherry, I'm a big NASCAR fan and was a big fan of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he retired because of concussions, and he wrote a book about his experience, and in that book, he talked about being able to actually heal from concussions over time. They did a lot of work, and the belief system there was that you can actually get back from a concussion. What does your research tell you on that?
Well, you can. I mean, all of us have had a brain injury. I mean, you fall learning how to walk, riding your bike, all that kind of stuff. It's how serious is it? If it's really serious, then you might never come back. You might have a lot of issues. But most of the time, people can come back. And when brain injuries are the most common in 0 to 4, so that's learning how to walk, and 75 and over, and that's from falls, both of them from falls. But you also, the second group of the largest is from about 15 to 25. And that's when we feel like we're invincible and we can do anything and nothing's going to happen to us. And we've all met elderly people that, especially, no offense, but especially men who say inappropriate things. And you can bet that they had a significant brain injury as a teenager then, because that's when you say those inappropriate things. And because, well, I could get into a lot of technicalities and I won't go there. That's too deep. But the truth is, if it's a minor concussion, if the brain doesn't swell and do permanent damage, then a minor concussion, you're going to recover from that. And sports figures, not every pro athlete has severe issues at a young age. Most pros, by the way, have some severe issues older. But the youngest athlete to be diagnosed with dementia from multiple concussions was 27 years old, and that was a year and a half ago. And the next youngest was about 2.5 years ago, and he was 31. And so now that's because the pro football is realizing how significant multiple concussions can be. So if you have one concussion and it's not huge, you don't have a lot of bleeds and a lot of your lobes damaged, you're probably going to come around and be fine. You might, call people by the wrong name, maybe get lost periodically, but nothing real major. But the more concussions you have, the more damage is being done to the brain, and the more issues you're going to have later. And
well,
that's
I think with the dementia, especially when they say, find a cure. Well, if something like that happened when you were a child, like abuse or spousal abuse or went to war, all can cause dementia. It's like with 120 different types. I don't think we're going to find a cure anytime really soon.
right.
But the education part, me, I love that part of it. And that's why I like working with you, because you always bring a new perspective in there of things that I didn't know and didn't think about. And it's sad that it happened to my granddaughter, to bring that attention to it, and that the high school, which there are protocols in place for that, didn't follow.
And we have that's called Max's Law. And we were the first state in the United States to have a law passed, and now all 50 states have our law. But I worked with Max's dad, who was an international movie producer, and his son was Tillamook High School, and he was the quarterback. And on a Saturday night in the game, he got tackled so hard that he had a significant concussion. He was in bed with a migraine, throwing up. I mean, he couldn't even stand up. He was so dizzy. And the coach called him and told him on Friday, he goes, "You got to suck it up and come in and win for the team."
Oh
so Max did go in. He did play. He got hit again and went into a coma for 7 months. And Max is now at a second grade level. And I mean, he can walk, he can talk, but he's never going to get beyond a young child. And when we were giving testimony before the health committee, and Senator Sarah Gelser was the head of it, and Max got up and did a cheer. So he's, "Go Gelser, go Gelser." And it was so obvious that he had such an issue that the legislators started crying because they could see the damage, and we won. We got that passed 100%, not a single vote against it. And like I said, now all 50 states have that same law, but it's educating coaches every single year. They have to get and it's only 20-minute education. There's no cost, but you have to watch a video on concussion. They're trying to have them understand concussion. They also have different ways of checking to see if you've had a concussion. One is the impact system. And what they do is they test the kids, and it's a computer program, test the kids before the season starts. And then if they get hit, they test them again to see if they've had any damage. Well, the kids are smarter than the coaches because they deliberately dumb it down when they take their initial test, so that if they do get hit, they're not going to be pulled out of the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, and like I say, it's the biggest thing is education. And it's like if you're hit and your face is all bloody and you're a mess, they're going to know it. But if it's a concussion, what's happened is some of those pathways, like the little roads I was talking about, might be damaged. And if you have just 1 or 2 damaged, it's not going to be any big deal. Your brain will compensate and get along. If you have a lot of them, and if you have concussions over and over, then more and more areas are getting damaged, and pretty soon, and every time something's damaged, it's blocked. And so the fluid that, like I said, your brain is 80% fluid, the fluid is blocked. And so the fluid isn't, and then your brain is drying out, and then you have dementia or dementia-like behaviors.
Well, and I was so surprised because in Christina's case, it was a behavior change. She didn't care about school anymore. She almost flunked out. She, just the behavior was what surprised me, because she was a good student. She, went to school, got good grades, the whole 9 yards. And then to have her behavior change like that. And then she was labeled a difficult student, and it got to where she was supposed to graduate, and they wouldn't let her graduate from the school because they've got to count how many people qualify and all this other kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's so much to it. It is so intricate that, all we can do is try and get that message out. And I would really love to have you come to Roseburg, and let's just do a seminar on it, especially just before school starts, if you feel better. Just to let the family members know, just like we did before,
right?
Out in Winston, that would be really good, because we need to increase the awareness for sure.
Yeah, I can come down. I can sit up now. I mean,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if everybody watching realizes that I had the spinal injury, but yeah. So let's do that. Let's plan that.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and you can have it in my care home. Yay!
Yeah. And
Really
that's another thing. We need to, I need to have an article in the newsletter about the care home.
Yeah, that would be great. The more the merrier. Yay.
Yeah. So if you can get something to me within the next week or two, then the newsletter will be out at the end of this month.
Yeah. Perfect.
That goes out to about 1.6 million people. Read that
through
our website.
Wow. Oh, I guess I need to clean it up a bit. Okay.
Yeah, it's internationally it's a big deal. Anything that people can read. So.
Sherry, you were just totally awesome. You have done so much in your lifetime for those suffering with brain injury. And even though you yourself are hurting, you're still out there fighting for people to get them quality care, to increase the education. You're just an amazing woman. And I'm so glad. I really worried about you for a long time that maybe this T-bone thing, wasn't going to help. So thank you so, so very much. I really appreciate your taking the time to be on. And, please come down. Let's do something together. And,
Yeah, let's plan that. So just put it together. And what I can do is also I can, it's blast it out to our email list as well.
Perfect. That would be awesome. Good. Brian, where are you?
Hey, I'm right here. Sherry, please share this link to this interview with your 1.6 million friends, would you?
Yeah, that's the website, and I can put a little bit on the website about it. But the big thing is and it can be in the article that you're going to put in the newsletter.
Okay.
That's what I would do, is put the link and when this is happening, because people, they can be in any country, right, to get this, because we have quite a few from Australia, New Zealand, the EU and stuff.
Yep.
Because I do a lot of training in the EU, so I go to the EU frequently.
Okay. I wanted to add, let's see if we can do this. I just wanted to show everybody the Brain Injury Alliance of Oregon webpage, biaoregon.org. You can click right there for get involved if you want to know more about what's happening, but it's got the resource library, news and events, and a whole lot more. So that's what the site looks like. And we encourage people to go there, biaoregon.org.
So our website was created by a graphic designer who sustained a significant brain injury. And so she's just done phenomenal. The pictures that she's got up there is really incredible.
Yeah.
So Debbie Johansson, she's just done a remarkable job.
Yeah. And the Oregon Alliance is just one state, because it's all the states. It's the Brain Injury Alliance. So,
right. And so every state did have an association with this pandemic that we're in. A lot of them have gone under because a lot of them had a large staff and they had no money coming in and couldn't pay their staff, and they've closed their doors. And what we've done is we have 150 volunteers. We have a staff of 3, and the whole staff has gone no pay for the last over a year now.
Wow.
But we're not going to give up. We're going to keep on working, all 3 of us. And
so dedicated. Man, you're just amazing. Just amazing.
We actually have a question that we want to ask before we let you go, Sherry, from our friend Barbara.
Okay.
Does a concussion sometimes affect the ears?
You can have ringing in the ears, but you can also lose the ability to hear. And so it can affect both hearing and the ringing that never ends. Mm-hmm. And which now having this severe accident that I have, I get it, because the ringing in my ears is so loud and it never goes away.
Yeah.
But that you can have that.
I imagine vertigo and as you described, tinnitus, essentially.
Yeah.
In your head, that deep ringing. I have a daughter in audiology graduate school, so we've learned a few things here. Those are very fragile bones in there, and if you had a concussion and a jarring injury, it's easy that you could potentially damage all of that internal balance, gyroscope stuff, right?
Yeah, and with vertigo, you can go to a functional neurologist is who you want to see if you have vertigo, and they can help give you exercises to help with that and have that go away. Another thing you might have, it's very common after a brain injury, is migraines. And they have a new technology that they're using. It's called TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. And they developed this for depression. And what they found out is it helps with migraines. And I had migraines that never end. I mean, I was crying in pain. And I went through this treatment. It was 18 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. By week 4, my migraines were 100% gone and they've never come back.
Wow.
So it really works, TMS, and it's covered by virtually all insurance, including Medicaid. And so if anybody has that with the migraines, go check TMS. And TMS is pretty much everywhere now. It's been around for about 5 years, I think. And it does so much good that it's all over.
So can you go right straight to the functional neurologist? I mean, a lot of family doctors, especially, a lot of family doctors are not up to date as far as current things and current technology, and, because they're overstaffed and all this kind of good stuff. What would you suggest someone do if you think they're just not getting the answers they need from their family physician?
Yeah, I would say, a functional neurologist. And if anybody has, is looking for one, they could call me, or they could, just research functional neurologist in the area. There's quite a few of them. I know there's quite a few. There's in Eugene, they're statewide.
So what does he do? What does a
functional neurologist is a chiropractor that has gone on and got 3 years education in neurology. So they've specialized in neurology and learned a lot of different techniques and the reasons why things are happening and some techniques on how to get rid of them. Like one of the things is if doing this kind of thing, when I start getting dizzy, I just do this and that'll help with it. It calms the brain and helps pull everything together. But there's different tricks that they give you. And, it's not, you're not going, every day for years or anything like that. It's nothing like that. It's like even the TMS, that was a maximum of 6 weeks. And so it's worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, I never knew there was such a thing. Not until, I met you up in our conference, and we met with what was the name of that gentleman that was there? Your friend is he from Portland, or he was Seattle, or the functional neurologist you had as the speaker?
Oh, Dr. Zielinski. So Dr. Zielinski is actually the Canadian Olympic team doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's an international speaker. And he does have his practice in Lake Oswego in the Portland area.
Wow.
He's phenomenal.
Would he come down and be a guest with us?
Probably. If I ask him. I can't, well, I shouldn't say this, but NO was not in his vocabulary.
Thank you. That's good information.
Oh, no. Uh-oh, Pam.
What?
Be gentle.
Yeah, I can ask Glenn if he would come down. Even if he can't come down, maybe he could do it by Zoom.
That would be awesome. I was so impressed with his information that he gave us. And like I said, every day I learn more and more and more. And it made me realize how much I have spent my whole life not knowing, not on purpose, but just not knowing.
There's a lot to know. And it's like, I've been doing this for nearly 50 years. So, and I used to teach residents up at OHSU. I would teach a class on brain injury to medical residents. But I stopped teaching about 15 years ago. I stopped teaching at university level.
Wow.
Because I was a college professor for years.
He would go on our podcast first, and then we could invite him down on the day that you come, and we can just have a brain day.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. I think we need to have him on. That would be awesome.
Yeah, maybe even him and Shauna talking about the TMS.
There you go.
So Shauna Hahn is his wife, and she's a mental health nurse practitioner, and brain injury is what she's worked with pretty much most of her life, because she worked at in Portland at a homeless shelter provider. And,
Wow.
close to 90% of the homeless have brain injury.
Yeah, or dementia. And that's too bad, for sure. And the Department of Defense is the one that's in charge of research for Alzheimer's because of all the guys coming back from Iran and Iraq that have dementia. And it's like the Department of Defense. I nearly fell over when I found that one out. It's like amazing. Anyway, Brian says we got to go. He's going to pull the plug on me. Like, you can talk for an hour. I know you can. Yes, it's probably.
Well, it's been great. And anybody that has any questions whatsoever, they're welcome to contact me. And or you can contact Pam and she'll get it to me. But definitely, we're always here. And whether it's Jerry or Becky or myself, we're always here to help.
Thank you so much. And we're going to get on that guy. We're going to do it.
Yeah, Sherry basically has scheduled the next several Streamcasts for us. That's great.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. We're going to be the go-to Streamcast for sure.
That's right. Aren't we anyway?
Yeah.
Well, Sherry, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations on your progress.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That was scary, I'll tell you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay. Do you turn me off?
Yeah, you can hang around if you want to chat afterwards off air, but for now we're going to move you off into we'll put you back in the green room. How's that? It's a fancy place. Stand by. It won't hurt at all. There we go. She's safely sequestered off to the side there, Pam. What a great conversation, though. And brain injuries are fascinating. It seems like there's information and new research all the time. And isn't it interesting how much we know about the brain and yet how little?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's more how little we know than how much.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, we've had a great show, by the way. BIAOregon.org is the site if you wanted to go see more about Brain Injury Alliance of Oregon. We also do, though, want you to go over and check out forgetmenotvillage.org. You'll find out more about the big plans that Forget Me Not Village has for a larger home care center just south of Roseburg on Highway 99. In addition, now we're going to have to update the website and apparently work on polishing up the newsletter, Pam, to make sure that Sherry gets the right information out to that big audience. But so much is going on, and you can check it all out at forgetmenotvillage.org. Some of the more quick-moving content is available on the Facebook page as Pam posts there quite often. So, Pam, looking ahead in the next couple of weeks, what's the rest of July look like for you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I passed my written test for Rocksteady Boxing. And this coming week, I've got to do the gym part of it. So I'm going to be with my gloves in the gym, trying to pass the last part of the test to become certified. And then I'm also going through the adult foster home program and all the stuff they have to do, the orientation and the testing and all this kind of good stuff. And so, yeah, I'm kind of busy. I'm taking tests all the time, it seems like. My goodness. So, yeah, so I've got a busy week ahead and working in the house and the remodel. I mean, if you guys have a heart for demolition and wants to come and help me tear down a couple of walls, we need volunteers for sure, or everything and anything, painting. We need so much stuff done inside before I can open, and would just absolutely love volunteers that just want to come in and help me see this thing become a reality, because you never know, you may need it.
Indeed. Well, your email address is there on the screen for anybody that would like to reach out. And we will have another program coming up here in a couple of weeks, and look forward to more of our podcasts, Streamcasts, if you will, that are both on Facebook and YouTube. And again, share this link with friends and family who might want to know more, or have somebody in their lives that could benefit from some of the information that we shared today with Sherry Stock and with the things that Pam talked about. Well, closing thoughts, good of the order before we adjourn.
Oh, no, just we're gonna do exciting things here in Roseburg. We're gonna be put on the map for making the most positive changes in care that you can ever imagine. So yeah, I'm real jazzed. It's gonna work. It's gonna be awesome.
All right. Well, you can be a part of it. So thank you for your time today, everybody. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you again soon on the Streamcast for Forget Me Not Village.